Me? All right. I gotta find. All right. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the January 31st meeting of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. We're going to start regardless of the fact that our director is in another meeting. So, a matter of getting things going, we're going to start off with the roll call, and I'm going to do that. It's funny how when Bob was here, all kind of people worked and did things for him. Yeah, I guess so. I don't have a toothpick either. All right. First, I'm here. Commissioner Cavella.
Present.
Commissioner Vacant, sorry. Commissioner Daigle.
Here.
Commissioner Barry.
Here.
Commissioner Ritholler.
Here.
Commissioner Cura. Here. Commissioner Francisco.
Here.
Did I say that correctly?
That's
Commissioner
close
Wildcat.
enough.
Here.
Legislative Liaison, Senator Driscoll's probably working. Representative Newsom, no, working. And Dan Schiffer.
I'm here.
All right, thank you. So we know we have a quorum. I'm going to skip the welcome and just say welcome, everybody. We're not going to go through and introduce ourselves as a stand-on thing, but we will ask you to introduce yourself if you come up and speak. So my guess is a majority of you guys will be speaking anyway. So if we take a second to stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, did everybody have a minute to look at our short, oh no, we're going to adopt the agenda first. So do I have a motion to adopt this agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Any
I'll
discussion?
second it then.
Okay. Any discussion about the agenda? All right, so I will say one quick thing. I'm going to move a few things around after we adopt it. Okay, all in favor of adopting agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to the minutes of the last meeting, which was very short. Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt last month's agenda? Sorry.
Commissioner Cavella, so moved.
I'll second it.
I think we have Tom. Dr. Barry, second. Any discussion about the minutes from last month? Okay, we'll vote to adopt the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We've adopted the minutes. We are now on item 4, if you're following the agenda, public comment. What I'd like to do before Charlie gets here and changes my mind is we will have public comment at each item, and we're not going to restrict that as far as I could tell. So if we want to move item number 4 to the end of the meeting, if you have not commented on something that was brought up, then we can reserve some time at the end of the meeting to have just general public comments. If that's okay with those here and on Zoom. We are now going to move to something Nick can do. Is that number 8, Nick? Is that the first item? So if you don't mind sharing with us what you found on item 8.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Broussard, members of the commission. Item number 8 is a request for Wyoming Downs LLC to deploy the previously approved Exacta horse racing system and approved game themes. Inside your packet, you'll see the confidential report. and I'll go straight to the summary on this one. On 12/15/2022, the Wyoming Gaming Commission received a request from Wyoming Downs seeking approval to utilize the following previously approved wagering systems, themes, and associated math models. The use of Exacta HHR wagering system version 1.6.453, 98 Exacta game themes on previously approved math models, 2 Incredible Technology game themes, previously approved math models, 2 Gaming Arts themes on previously approved math models, 18 AGS themes on previously approved math models, 21 IGT themes on previously approved math models. Starting 12/15/22 through 12/30/22, I reviewed the submission in its entirety, including the review of all the previously approved internal cases, cross-referencing each theme and math model to those that have received commission approval previously. All the themes and math models requested were successfully cross-referenced. The requested wagering system, themes, and associated math models have been previously approved by this commission, and many of them, or most of them, are currently deployed throughout the state of Wyoming. With that being said, this request, all of these math models, themes, and the wagering platform has come through the commission for previous approval. They are currently active, so this is just a new operator or another operator requesting the same use. And with that, I would stand for any questions on this one.
Okay, so to clarify, this has been approved by the commission just for a different operator.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion? I guess we're moving to approve the operator of existing approved games. Not sure what we're approving, except
I think the motion would be to approve Wyoming Downs' use of the Exacta system and the requested themes and math models.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the commissioners? Any questions of Nick?
Nick, have they, most of these that have been adopted or that we have just approved, how many of them are going to be placed immediately, or are they waiting for these machines to come in?
These would all have to be ordered, so it's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
These were previously approved for Wyoming horse racing.
Correct, and 307 Horse Racing also utilizes some of them.
Any more comments, questions from the commission? Anyone from the public? No. If not, then we'll call the vote. All in favor of allowing Wyoming Downs to use existing approved Exacta horse racing, vote aye.
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 Unopposed? Was that a vote? No. All right, that passes. Moving on to 9.
Broussard, I'm moving over a couple people from Wyoming Horse Racing.
Okay, take your
They
time.
have a presentation to show for the next, it'd be item number 9A, and I believe 9B. So we'll go through their presentation first, and then I can do the staff review of their presentation.
And that's Wyoming Horse Racing, new location requested on 6421 Spear Road, Cheyenne, Wyoming.
That is correct. And we should see them. Yep, they're on the screen there. So I will get this presentation started here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning. You guys have the floor if you like.
Thank you. First, I'll apologize.
We are stuck in Cheyenne this morning. I had every intention to be there in person, and we'll do our best to cover the material via Zoom, but wanted to at least acknowledge that, and that our intent was to try to be in person in the meeting today. So.
It's understandable.
Forgive you.
Morning, everybody. We just wanted to do a quick presentation on our two projects that we're looking to for permission on. It's part of Wyoming horse racing's continued legacy, started with the Joyce family in expanding the horse racing industry, and obviously the HHR hospitality and the agribusiness that we do. It's true to say that within the state that these have breathed new life into the horse racing industry. In fact, since 2018, all the key segments have doubled their economic impact to the state. And these two projects are our next natural progression. We're seeking approval to operate two additional HHR locations known as touristic OTBs, touristic. They're to be based in Cheyenne and Evanston, and to take advantage of the to bring gaming income from Utah and Colorado. So they're not aimed at the local market, although there'll be a great addition to the local market. We have made presentations to the Laramie and Uintah counties, as well as the mayors of both cities, and received favourable support and letters of support from all the relevant bodies. And just to let you know, this is going to be a short presentation, but you will see the impacts locally that both these locations will make, but collectively together to their contribution would add 4.8 million in annual tax revenue. It will increase the breeders' fund for locally bred, state-bred horses by 1.1 million. It would create 90 full-time jobs for locals. There's a project cost of just over $40 million that we will bring to the state. There's also 13 million in indirect induced impact, because there would be, during construction, 270 construction jobs made. So you can see that although this is two projects that are aimed at bringing people into Wyoming, the impact to Wyoming is massive. And with that, I'll hand over to Pete.
I think it goes to me. Good morning, commissioners. My name is John Sheldon, and this is my partner, Nick and Pete.
I'm sorry, John. Nick, are we in control of the pages, or is that something you need to do for us? Apologies.
That's okay. Just tell me when to click next and I'll move it over.
Go ahead, 2 pages if you wouldn't mind. Move forward. There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, my name is John Sheldon, and good morning. This slide is provided really to highlight the location, to give you an indication visually of where it is. It's located on Spear Road, as was mentioned earlier, but it's typically referred to as the Swan Ranch Industrial Park. It's just off I-25 at exit number 4. The entire site is 36 acres. It's referred to, as Nick alluded, as a touristic OTB, because it's going to generate revenue from outside the state, primarily from Colorado, as it's only 30 to 60 minutes drive from approximately 700,000 people from Fort Collins, and really not to mention the entire metro area of Denver that has only an hour and a half drive or so, which is 2.9 million people. So we think it's well positioned to take advantage of our neighbor state. Next slide, please. I'm sorry. Yeah, so this slide really it just provides a view of the exterior. I just wanted to highlight a few of the features because it's really going to be designed more as a sort of a Western theme structure with the moss rock granite, as you can see at the bottom of those pillars, then peeled wood logs and plank sidings. And then this will be counterbalanced with the copper-shaped metal roofs and the expansive glass, which is displayed, all to bring sort of a modern influence to it as well. So we're very excited about this. It's, obviously these are renderings, but we feel pretty good about this project moving forward once we receive your approvals. Next slide, please. This was designed just to give an example of how it will be laid out with the terminals and some of the restaurant seating areas there. The interior design is to be comprised of vibrant upscale Western themed materials, and then enhanced by the natural daylight from the expansive windows that you can see up in the top area there. And then this facility is going to be approximately 30,000 square feet. The amenities will include a very nice OTB area, approximately 275 HHR machines, a nice restaurant and bar, and then a grab-and-go food outlet as well to complement our visiting guests from out of state. And then the next slide, I'll turn that over to Pete.
Thank you, and Vice President Broussard and other commissioners, thank you for letting us go through some of the highlights today. Nick touched on some of the combined economic benefits from the two projects, but this is the information specifically for the Laramie County project. The goal here is to create a facility that Wyoming can be proud of, we can be proud of, and the goal is to design it in a way that it attracts customers from Colorado. The goal is to try to drive tourism into the state. I'm sorry. As we talked about some of the statistics, you can see the information on the screen. Excuse me. But some other information I did want to share. Our construction is underway at the project. We have, knock on wood, our goal is to use exclusively Wyoming vendors. And so far through the project, we've been able to do that. So as part of that Wyoming First philosophy that you may remember we first talked to you about over a year ago, where we can use Wyoming vendors, we're going to. So right now we're on track. All of the vendors, as I said, have been based out of Wyoming. So we're kind of excited about that. Our construction is fully engaged at this point. Obviously, weather is going to ultimately determine the exact timing when we open. But the goal here is to develop a facility that's an economic engine for the area, the county, the city, and of course, the state. The excess land that we talked about, we're not certainly going to be using all of the land that we've purchased initially, but our goal is to create a campus of a number of other attractions besides our own facility that again will bring in tourism across the state line. We've been talking to a number of hotel companies, a number of restaurateurs. So we think that when we're finished, the master plan for this campus is going to be quite something when we're finished. And the goal is to create an entertainment, leisure, hospitality area that people can come and spend the afternoon or evening or a day when we're finished. So we're hoping not just to bring tourism in for the OTBs and HHR, but other elements of the business as well. Nick, would you turn to the next page, please? Thank you.
This is about our Evanston project. And this slide is again provided to give you a reference in terms of the location, which is on Prospect Drive. It's, we're going to be acquiring the Porter's Fireworks building in that site, which is about 6 acres. The nice thing about this, again, it's located almost on the Utah border. The first exit off of I-80 coming from Utah. And again, it's conveniently located to the Salt Lake City market, which is only an hour, 20 hour, 30 minutes to 1.3 million people. And also the Ogden Clearfield area is only an hour, 10 hour, 15-minute drive to 700,000 people. And Park City, 8,400 people, which is only a 30-minute drive to Evanston. So again, well positioned with that location. The exterior design, we haven't done that yet. It's to be advised, but we hope that it will be somewhat similar to what we're trying to do in Cheyenne. It will incorporate Porter's Fireworks, but of course not with the fireworks. So we won't be doing that. And then the interior will be, to start off, will be slightly smaller than the Cheyenne project, about 20,000 square feet. And then again, very nice OTB area, about 200 HHR machines, restaurant, bar, and then the grab-and-go food outlet. So again, we, very pleased that we're able to acquire this site and as a potential new OTB in the Evanston market. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Pete.
And thank you, John. And Nick, if you wouldn't mind, one more page, thank you. So this is the economic impact we expect in Uinta County and Evanston area. And as Nick talked about in the beginning, the projects were combined, but this is the standalone page for this project in Evanston. The property is roughly about 2/3 of the size of Cheyenne. So the expectation is the tax benefits, the number of jobs, et cetera, are all roughly proportional. But, as we've looked at this project, this one is probably more interesting because of its position relative to Utah and the enormous size of the population. So again, we're using a small portion of our 6-acre site initially with the goal that if this does get the attraction and the demand that we think will come, we'll be able to expand this facility, may ultimately become the size of the Cheyenne property. In this case, we are just getting started with this project, as you heard. We've hired a local Wyoming architect. He's hiring a number of engineer professionals. So this project is really just getting off the ground at this point, but the goal is to use the existing structure we have, which is about 10,000 square feet, and expand it to 20. So this is a little bit different than Cheyenne in that it's a renovation and an expansion, not just a true greenfield project. So we're excited about this project as well. The mayor in Evanston is excited, and the county commissioners are also excited about this potential to bring in tourism dollars across state line. Excuse me. So I think, Nick, if you go to the next slide, what we'd like to do is, respectfully request approval of the 2 locations. I know they're listed separately on the agenda, and obviously we covered all of them, but there may be questions we'd like to cover if we can at this point.
Any questions from the commissioners before we get started? We'll have more time for questions, but.
I actually just had one quick question, if I may.
Sure.
I see the feasibility study on there, and it's got positive numbers in it. But I also see in each property respectively an increase to 400 to 300, 400 at one property and an increase to 300 at the other property. Has any studies been done or any thoughts of saturation or cannibalism of the local HHR properties or skill-based games?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We actually have engaged in an impact study, and because this is such a unique type of project that's never been tried in Wyoming, we didn't really want to go and build the largest facility. We wanted to be a little bit cautious, but we obviously planned excess land for expansion in both locations if the demand is there. All of the advertising that we're going to be doing is really targeted over the state lines in Colorado and Utah. And look, it's natural that locals are in fact going to come see it, but our emphasis and our focus is going to be trying to bring others across the state lines. We don't believe that either project will have a material impact to the existing HHR facilities. And we specifically pushed the Cheyenne project outside of, I'll say, Cheyenne proper and way down by the Welcome Center to make it a little less convenient for locals to drive down there. And the same thing with the Evanston property. We're not downtown. We're not where the other OTB locations are. In Evanston, there's 2 operators. We're one, and Wyoming Downs is another. So we think there's enough distance to create a little bit of a natural barrier or I'll say resistance for coming to see the facility.
Thank you.
Unless there's objection, I think we should address these independently, just in case there are unique concerns about one or the other.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cavello. I have a question.
Go ahead, Cactus.
So I see that you do have all of the interior and exterior designs and everything done for the Cheyenne location, but for the Evanston location, you have the plans for the interior, but you're using an existing building. But you've not at this point come up with how you'll change the exterior. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We've literally just hired the architect, and the plan is to obviously make it attractive and appealing. But the goal right now is to use the existing structure we have, and then the expansion will actually go out and back of the building and slightly to the side. So from a profile standpoint, what Porter's Fireworks and their liquor store is occupying that right now will be roughly about the visual.
Although, Commissioner, the actual design would be more in keeping with the type of design that you've seen for the Cheyenne property.
Yeah, it'll be completely modernized and upgraded, obviously.
A lot of dressing up.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the we'll start moving towards a motion on item 9A, alpha.
Commissioner Broussard, do you want me to go over the staff review real quick first?
Yes, please,
Okay,
please.
thank you.
Sorry.
Commissioners, on 11/2/2022, the commission received the following documentation: a letter requesting agenda inclusion, amended simulcast permits adding the new Cheyenne location, render drawings of the floor plan layout and building construction, photos of the location, county resolution granting approval, Wyoming horse racing financial statements, a feasibility study, and a letter of support from the mayor of Cheyenne. All the required documentation was received in good order and was well organized. In the request, Wyoming Horse Racing indicates that the property is owned by them. The initial offering will be 275 historic horse racing terminals. Wyoming Horse Racing will be attempting to obtain a liquor license for the facility. Included in your packet, you'll see a letter from the Office of the Mayor of Cheyenne. Laramie County Resolution 221018-9 authorized Wyoming Horse Racing to conduct parimutuel wagering on live horse racing, historic horse racing, and simulcast events at the property located at 6421 Spear Road, Cheyenne, Wyoming. The resolution was signed and dated 10/18/2022 with no end date. Wyoming Horse Racing has been operating in the Cheyenne area for numerous years. Their current Cheyenne locations offer simulcasting and historic horse racing. The additional Cheyenne location will offer simulcasting, historic horse racing, and has plans to obtain a liquor license. The new location has been positioned off of I-25 near the Colorado-Wyoming border and hopes to bring tourism and out-of-state tax dollars to the state. Chapter 10 of the Wyoming Parimutuel Commission rules govern simulcasting within the state. Chapter 10, Section E states the following: The commission shall use the following decisional criteria in the approval or disapproval of an application for simulcast operators. The operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming, the operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming horse racing industry, the operator's integrity, individual and corporate conduct, criminal history, betting and gaming industry conduct, the operator's credibility, the accuracy of the feasibility study, experience and expertise in the operator in the simulcast industry. Wyoming Horse Racing has met the criteria for their current operations. Based on the information and interviews with Cheyenne officials in Laramie County, all are in support of the new location. And I would stand for any questions on the staff review if need be.
All righty. Any other staff information we need to know before we move? All right, so addressing just Alpha, the Cheyenne location, we'll entertain a motion one way or the other.
Mr. President, I would move we approve it.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Now we'll just open it up for all comments and questions to the folks at Wyoming Horse Racing or Nick. Any questions, commissioners? Any more? Anyone on Zoom? All right, we'll open it to the public. If there's a comment or question, you come up and state your name and ask your question. No one? All right, any additional comments, Wyoming Downs folks? Wyoming Horse Racing, sorry. Anything from Wyoming Downs? All right, then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the location on 6421 Spear Road, Cheyenne, please vote aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please vote aye. All right, that passes. Okay, Nick, B.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Item number 9B is a location request from Wyoming Horse Racing at 755 Prospector Drive in Evanston, Wyoming. That's the second one that was included in their presentation. On 11/2/2022, the commission received the request for the 755 Prospector Drive Evanston location. Included in the request was a letter requesting inclusion in the agenda, amended simulcast permits adding the new Evanston location, rendered drawings of the floor plan layout and building construction, photos of the location, county resolution granting county approval, Wyoming Horse Racing financial statement, a feasibility study, and a letter of support of the project from the city of Evanston. All the required documentation was received in good order and well organized. In the request, Wyoming Horse Racing indicates that the property is owned by them. The initial offering will be 150 historic horse racing terminals with room to expand to 300 in the future if feasible. Wyoming Horse Racing will be attempting to obtain a liquor license for this facility. Included in your packet, you'll see the letter from the mayor's office for the city of Evanston. On January 3rd, 2022, I spoke with Chief Varnish with the city of Evanston. He expressed no concerns and was actually excited about the project. He said that all of the operators currently operating in Evanston have been very good to work with and are always helpful. Uinta County Resolution number 41 authorized Wyoming Horse Racing to conduct parimutuel wagering on live horse racing, historic horse racing, and simulcast events at the property located at 755 Prospector Drive, Evanston, Wyoming. The resolution was signed November 1st, 2022 with no end date. Wyoming Horse Racing has been operating in the Evanston area for numerous years. Their current locations offer simulcasting historic horse racing terminals. The additional Evanston location will offer simulcasting and historic horse racing terminals. The location has plans to obtain a liquor license. The new location has been positioned off of I-80 near the Utah-Wyoming border in hopes to bring tourism and out-of-state tax dollars to the state. The commission should use the following decisional criteria in approval or disapproval of an application. The operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming, the operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming horse racing industry, the operator's integrity, individual and corporate conduct, criminal history, betting and gaming industry conduct, the operator's credibility, the accuracy of the feasibility study, experience and expertise of the operator in the simulcast industry. Wyoming Horse Racing has met the criteria for their current operations. Based on the information reviewed and the interviews with Evanston officials, Uintah County and the city of Evanston are all in support of the new location. I would stand for any questions on the staff review as well.
Thank you, Nick. Excellent. All right, so we will now entertain a motion for the 755 Prospect Drive, Evanston, Wyoming location presented by Wyoming Horse Racing. Do we have a motion?
I so move, we accept the Evanston location.
Commissioner Kerr, thank you.
I'll second.
So, Commissioner Daigle, thank you. All right, now we'll open it up to comments from the commission. Questions or comments? Nothing, Dave? Nothing? Okay. We'll open it up to comments or questions from the general population, general audience. Anybody? Nothing from Wyoming Downs? Okay, so we will call the vote. All in favor of approving the 755 Prospect Drive, Evanston, Wyoming location OTB from Wyoming Horse Racing, please vote aye.
Aye.
When opposed, vote nay. All right, that's passed. Moving along.
Vice President Broussard, item number 9C is a request from Wyoming Horse Racing to deploy, oh geez, let me find my spot before I say something wrong.
The Tech History Horse Racing.
Wyoming Horse Racing to deploy 2 existing approved game themes on the Incredible Technologies. Incredible Technologies is the vendor. The 2 themes is Heat 'em Up Power Wheel and Fate of the 8 Power Wheel. This request had come before the commission before and mirrors the request by 307 Horse Racing. It has already been approved. So this is just another operator requesting to use the same themes. And I'd stand for any questions.
Okay. Commission, we'll entertain a motion for item 9C, which is to allow Wyoming Horse Racing to deploy previously approved themes and math models. Do we have a motion for that? Thank you, Commissioner Wildcat. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kerr. We'll open it up for discussion. Commission, anyone in the commission have a question or comment? Anyone in the audience? Anyone on Zoom would like to comment or have a question? Wyoming Horse Racing folks, no comment? All right, I will call the question. So all in favor of allowing Wyoming Horse Racing to deploy previously approved Incredible Tech game themes and math models, vote aye.
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 If you're opposed, vote nay. Okay, that one's complete. Does anyone need a break?
Thank you, commissioners, for your approvals today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Vice President Broussard, are we continuing on?
Well, we want to continue on. You guys on Zoom are okay? We're moving fast, so that might be good, that might be bad. All right, so Nick, if you're ready, we'll carry on.
Ready to go.
You can take, what you want to go with 10?
Okay. Vice President Broussard, members of the commission, item number 10A is a request from 307 Horse Racing requesting the use of 4 new game themes and 4 new math models on every software. Every would be a new vendor in the state of Wyoming. Included in your packet is the confidential report. And as soon as I get to the right page, on 11/27/2022, the commission received a request from 307 Horse Racing seeking approval to deploy 3 new game themes developed by Every. Every is currently licensed in Wyoming as a terminal manufacturer. Every themes operate on the already approved Exacta backend system. Therefore, the reporting, handicapping, and overall gameplay is similar to what 307 Horse Racing already operates. The themes are Triple Jackpot Gems Deluxe, Wicked Panda Wheel, Blazing Gems Deluxe. The takeout rates range from 1.59% to 12.64%. On 12/17, the commission received an additional request for an added theme, which is Wicked Wheel Fire Phoenix. This theme operates with takeout rates ranging from 1.59 to 12.08%. On 12/22/22, I reviewed all of the submitted paperwork, including screenshots, video of the gameplay, all the associated lab reports, all the theme and math model spec sheets. The independent laboratory has found that every HHR software is compliant with the requirements set forth in the Wyoming Gaming Commission rules and Wyoming statutes for parimutuel wagering. The laboratory also determined that the results of historical thoroughbred races compared against the players' selections are the only determining factor in the outcome of the player's wager. The outcome of the game is entirely determined by the player's picks evaluated against the results of the historical race. The entertaining display of the game is populated deterministically using only the player's choices. This request is similar to others that have been approved for use in Wyoming and appears to be in compliance when compared to the 18-point compliance checklist. And I would stand for any questions on this one.
Nick, you said that Every was a new startup?
They're licensed as a terminal manufacturer, but we haven't deployed any of their software for HHR yet.
Okay. Reputation? Is there history on their reputation at all, or we've had?
They're licensed in good standing.
Okay, great. Okay.
I have a question kind of piggybacking that. Nick, if they're licensed already as a terminal manufacturer, since they're deploying software, is that going to require an additional license?
It would not.
Thank you.
Okay. At this moment, we will entertain a motion to allow 4 new game themes from Every software as requested by 307 Horse Racing.
So moved.
Well, we'll get to comments. Okay, we have a first and a second. We'll open up to comments. Commissioners, any comment? Any other comment? Give a comment? No comments from the commissioners, so we have a.
Kyle Ridgway with 307 Horse Racing, Chairman. I just thought it might be helpful for us to explain a little bit what these approvals are, what we're trying to do. So Exacta is the hardware manufacturer that we use for our facilities. They make the hardware, the physical terminal. And then the way that their platform works is they're agnostic as to what software can appear on their platform. And so they have a variety of third-party companies that provide software for their terminals. And so what these approvals are allowing us to do, so we've been coming to all these meetings. The reason being is because Exacta creates a new agreement with a different third-party vendor, and then we have to get that vendor approved. Then that gives us optionality on our terminals, whether we want to swap software out without having to bring in new physical hardware terminals all the time. So it allows us to keep the gaming floor roughly the same size as it is, but we can change game things out to find something that works better or worse. And so Every and Epic Tech are new software providers, and AGS has new game themes available. So what that allows us to do is on some terminals that have software that we think either doesn't work or isn't viable for one reason or another. It gives us some optionality to change the game theme without having to do anything else to the floor. That's really what we're asking in all three of these approvals. Correct. So instead of playing a game that has a theme with, you know, Lucky Charms, it's a game theme that's got something else.
Any questions to Kyle, Commissioners? Any more? Okay. Any other comments from the general public? Any questions of Kyle? No? Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. If there are no questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approving 307 Horse Racing's request to use every software's game themes, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, please. All right, that one passes. Nick, you want to do the
Yep.
B?
Vice President Broussard, item number 10B is a request from 307 Horse Racing requesting to deploy 6 game themes, 6 new math models, and 22 skins from Epic Tech software. Included in your packet is the confidential report. And as I scroll through here, get to the right page. On 11/27/2022, the commission received a request from 307 Horse Racing seeking approval to deploy 6 new game themes consisting of 22 skins and their associated math models developed by Epic Tech LLC. Epic Tech LLC is a new vendor to Wyoming. If approved, they would need to complete vendor licensing prior to deployment of their software. Epic Tech LLC themes and math models operate on the already approved Exacta back-end system. Therefore, the reporting, handicapping, and overall gameplay is similar to what 307 Horse Racing already operates. The themes are Cash Flash, which operates with takeout rates ranging between 4 and 9%. Hyper Reskin also operates with takeout rates between 4 and 8%. Lucky Duck Deluxe operates on commission takeout rates between 4 and 8%. Lucky Link Green operates on takeout rates ranging from 3.2% to 7.2%. Lucky Link Red operates with takeout rates from 3.2% to 7.2%. Wolf Ultra operates on takeout rates ranging from 3.2 to 9%. On 12/27/2022, I reviewed all the submitted paperwork, including screenshots, video of gameplay, all the lab reports, and all theme and math model specs, spec sheets. In this request, I noted that one of the skins displays playing cards as a symbol as an option. The commission has previously denied the use of themes that relates to things related to bingo, keno, and or poker. The screenshot is included in your report so you can look at it and see if you all deem that problematic. An independent laboratory has found that Epic Tech HHR software is compliant with the requirements set forth in Wyoming Gaming Commission rules and Wyoming statutes for parimutuel wagering. The laboratory also determined that the results of historical thoroughbred races compared against the player's selection are the only determining factor in the outcome of the player's wager. The outcome of the game is entirely determined by the player's picks evaluated against the results of the historical horse race. The entertaining display of the game is populated deterministically using only the player's choices. This request is similar to others approved for use in Wyoming and appears to be in compliance when compared to the 18 points compliance checklist, with the one exception of the Big Dogs Deluxe theme. And I would stand for any questions on this one.
Sorry.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
So Epic Tech is not currently licensed as a vendor here.
That is correct.
Have they applied for their vendor license?
Not yet. Once, if approved, then they would apply for their vendor's license.
So if approved, if we approve the software, then they'll apply for their vendor license.
Correct.
It'll be a conditional approval based on their licensing.
Okay, thank you.
Nick, which skin or game had the cards in it? Can you?
It's called Big Dogs Deluxe, and in your packet, there should be a picture of it. And if it's not in there, I can remote in and grab it. All right, give me just a couple seconds here.
All right, Commission, what's your pleasure? Should we make a motion to approve conditionally? Or do we want to make a motion and discuss the skin with the card graphics? Go ahead, Dick.
I would make a motion to approve in order to start further discussion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Daigle. All right, so
Mhm.
now we'll open it up for questions and comments and discussion. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, I was wondering if Nick could kind of go a little bit further about the one theme with the card or whatever that's a little bit contrary to what we normally approve.
Commissioner Cavella, I'm not quite sure why it didn't make it in the packet. It was a part of the report, and it looks like when it was converted over, it, for whatever reason, removed the picture. So I will find that, and then I can show you exactly, and that might be easier to explain then.
Thank you, Nick.
In total, Nick, skins, graphics, they're asking for in the 20s or 30s, am I right?
Vice President Broussard, so this request it's 6 themes, and then each theme has different associated skins. Oops,
Okay.
and math models. So ultimately, it's 6 total skins, but of those 6 themes, and out of those 6 themes, there's 22 individual skins.
Okay. All right, commissioners, what are we feeling on do we want to approve all but the ones we've historically turned down, or do we want to set a precedence?
Mr. President, Nick, the vendor is aware of the Big Dog Deluxe, that they cannot have that skin in there, right?
Not at this time,
Not
because
at
it
this
has
time.
not been neither approved
Until
nor
we say they
denied.
can, okay.
So, any other questions, Kyle? Is this, in this particular skin, something you guys were hoping for, wishing for? It doesn't matter? We all aware of the fact that we kind of lean against card games or Keno-looking games?
President Broussard, Vice President Broussard. Jack Greer, 307 Horse Racing. Obviously, none of the vendors are here today to speak on behalf of these games and skins, but as far as I am aware, these are all historical horse racing games, and they play exactly like a historical horse racing game should play. As far as cards not being allowed, what have you, I think that's up to you all as the commission. So we submitted what's in line with historical horse racing.
Robbie Smith with Epic Tech. We can certainly remove the theme. I was not aware of playing cards being an issue, so that theme can be removed. No problem whatsoever.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for folks?
Yeah, Mr.
Seven? Oh, one
I
minute.
got one question. How hard is that to change in terms of the dealing with the software to
It's
get
not-
rid of that?
It's very easy.
Very easy?
Very easy.
Figured so, okay.
Vice President Broussard.
Go ahead.
If I could provide a little clarity, Charles Moore, Director of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. Several years ago when this started, the commission had determined that some themes weren't appropriate, whether it was, a lewd or crude theme, or we wanted to stay away from bingo themes, we wanted to stay away from Keno themes, and some of those themes. That's been consistent since day one. And, each one of the manufacturers does have themes that we have denied at different points. And they do bring to us periodically, and we have said no to those, so.
Thank you, Charlie. That's very helpful. So
Vice
if,
President Broussard.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I think then I will need to amend, if I can get an approval with a second, amend my motion to read approval of all but the skin with the card theme.
That's Big Dog. Nick, is that right? Big Dog?
That is correct.
We also need to make it conditional on the approval of the license. And you want to make an amendment, Commissioner Walcott?
Well, that's what I wanted to recommend, Commissioner Cavello, is if you can make it conditional on the approval of the license also, the vendor license.
So let's just restate that my motion will read that the approval of all but the skin with the card theme, and of course, all dependent upon conditional approval from the licensing.
I'm good with that.
Thank you. All right, so with the new and approved motion, any comments on the changes? Any more questions? How about from the audience or the public? The experts? Nope. All right, if there's no questions, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approving the upgrade AGS software as presented by 307 Horse Racing, conditional on their license? Vote aye.
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 All opposed? Same sign? Okay. Now, Charlie's back. Nick, is that all of the requests from vendors or operators? No. Which one's that? Help me out. Okay. What number is that? Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, that's the one we're doing. All right, sorry, my bad. Let's go to item 10C then.
Vice President Broussard, item number 10C is a request received from 307 Horse Racing requesting to deploy 5 new game themes on 5 new math models using the AGS approved software. Let's see. Oh, sorry. On 12/17/2022, the commission received a request from 307 Horse Racing seeking approval to deploy 5 new AGS game themes and their associated math models utilizing the existing approved Exacta backend system. The themes are Diamond Heist with takeout rates ranging between 8 and 12%, Samurai Gold with takeout rates ranging between 8 and 12%, Tiki Shores with takeout rates ranging between 8 and 12%, Tiki Jungle with takeout rates ranging between 8 and 12, and Monkey Legends with takeout rates ranging between 10 and 14. On 12/30/22, I reviewed all the submitted paperwork, including screenshots, video of the gameplay, all the associated lab reports, the theme and math model spec sheets. An independent laboratory has found that the AGS HHR software is compliant with the requirements set forth in the Wyoming Gaming Commission rules and Wyoming state statutes for parimutuel wagering. The laboratory has also determined that the results of historical thoroughbred races compared against a player's selections are the only determining factor in the outcomes of a player's wager. The outcome of the game is entirely determined by the player's picks evaluated against the results of the historical race. The entertaining display of the game is populated deterministically using only the player's choices. This request is similar to others approved for use in Wyoming and appears to be in compliance when compared to the 18-point compliance checklist. And I would stand for any questions on this one.
Commissioners, we have any questions of Nick? Okay, then we'll move forward. Entertain a motion to approve 307 Horse Racing's.
Motion to approve 307 Horse Racing to add the 5 new AGS game themes.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We'll let up for questions. Nick, is AGS licensed?
There.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the commission to 307? Anything from 307? Nope. Okay.
Vice Chairman Rosel, can I ask you a question?
Sure. You got the floor.
All the packets, they always have screenshots. Is there a reason we're not seeing that? Is that just a snafu on the printing, or is there, because it says it was included, but there's no screenshots of any of them. So
Bust you out.
Vice President Broussard, that's kind of by design. When these reports, when we include text specs and lab reports and screenshots, these reports will go from 5 pages to anywhere upwards of 400 pages.
Oh, okay. Well, just a question I had,
Yeah.
especially after the discussion about the cards. So,
And I can,
thank you.
I'll make sure that if there's a questionable theme anymore, that screenshot gets included. I'm not exactly sure why it was removed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll call a vote. All in favor of approving the AGS software for 307 Horse Racing, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, that one's passed. That's the last one that you have, Nick. Okay, so what we'll do now is, do we need a break, commissioners? No? Anybody? Nick? No? Charlie? All right, so then we'll go back to item number 5. Let Charlie take from here.
Thank you, Vice President Broussard. Item number 5A, adoption of rules, parimutuel rules, Chapter 8, conduct of racing. For the motion, we would need to add in the motion, it is 038.111422. Parimutuel Chapter 8. The rules have completed public comment. We took public comment November 14th through January 3rd. We received no public comments. In the proposed rule packet that you have in front of you today, the only changes are on page 8-12 through 8-17, which is the Breeders' Award, the Wyoming Bred Program rules. We've taken several months to develop those and get those to the spot they are today. And then there's one other additional change, which was just a formatting, a repetitive language on page 8-27. Again, these have passed public comment. They are now ready for your formal adoption from this point on. If you choose to adopt these rules, they will go to the governor's office and then set there until such time as he signs those into law.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. So at this juncture, we're going to be looking for a motion to adopt the rules as presented. Anyone need a minute?
Vice President Broussard, I move that we adopt the proposed rule packet 038.111422, parimutuel Chapter 8.
Second.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, any comments from the commission? Comments from staff? Comments from the general public? No comments. We'll call the vote. All in favor of adopting the new rules as presented, vote aye.
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 All those opposed, vote nay. Okay. So we'll move to rules. Item 5B. Charlie?
Yes, thank
Take
you,
that.
Vice President Broussard. Item 5B, historic horse racing and technical specifications. The historic horse racing rules are still in the process of being developed. We're working also kind of unilaterally with the Louisiana Racing Commission, the Virginia Racing Commission, Oregon Racing Commission, and I probably missed somebody, on a project to have some uniform rules that will apply across all of those, which would be consistent for all states. We do have with us today the technical specifications commissioners. The technical specifications, if you flip to through your packet, you'll see in the following pages. These technical specifications have been out in draft form since, well, they were updated most recently, minimally, on January 9th, 2023. But the body of the work has been out there quite some time. This is very consistent with all gaming platforms. This is very consistent with, you know, this is just in the gaming world, technical specifications are very important. So we have heard from several of the vendors and the vendors that produce the skill-based amusement, or excuse me, sorry about that, I'm bad. The historic horse racing machines, and at this point, we're not hearing any issues with problems with complying to these technical specifications. Part of the reason for that is they are already working in this space, and these are standard and you know, not really an issue for any of their compliance. That's really all I have at this point. There is a few things in here that I think we do need to hammer out. And so I think at this point today, we would be a little premature in adopting these to the next step. And the one situation is how to grandfather in, or do we want to grandfather in a couple of the machines that are out there right now. We do have machines that are operating in the state, not a lot of them, that do not have the logic box secured. In the future, those games will be secured, and there won't be an issue with that, but we need to contemplate how do we deal with that when we move these forward. So I would like your patience and indulgence on this to come up with that plan and bring that back to you at the next meeting.
So Charlie, at the moment, we don't have technical standards for HHR. Is that, this is the?
At the moment, President or Vice President Broussard, at the moment, you do have the technical standards, but we do have some more language I'd like to make sure we add to this to where we're a little more comfortable in giving better guidance.
So is any action from the commission?
No action is required at this time.
Generally speaking, any questions of Charlie before we move on to item C? Commissioners? Anyone else in the room? On Zoom? Nope. Okay, thank you. Item 5C, Charlie.
Yes, thank you. Item 5C is off-track wagering location rules and regulations. Again, you have, as you can see, you just have a one-pager in here. We have not developed those rules yet. Again, it's a work in progress, like a lot of things that we have out there. And at the November 16th, 2022 meeting, there was a motion directing staff to draft parameters for off-track betting, historical racing locations. In a list there below, you'll see some of the concerns that have been raised and will be addressed in rules. The designated areas, video surveillance. While the historic horse racing locations all have video surveillance, we will put that in rule. Increasing the potential bonding of historic racing with jackpots in excess of 500,000. The staff does feel like the bonding that we currently have is inadequate. We currently have $100,000 for each one of the permittees that are operating in the state. Minimum number of mutual employees to be on staff, auditing and reporting processes and procedures, continuing education for mutual employees. What we found in a few of our audits and our reviews, that a lot of the employees are unable to, at best, to explain how the games operate. And that's problematic. I do know that all three of the permittees have been notified of this issue and concern, and they are addressing it. And hopefully we wouldn't necessarily have to have this in rules. Responsible gambling is another point that we need to clarify. In sports wagering and in a lot of our regulations that we have across the board, there is a requirement to have the minimum age allowed and also the responsible gambling information on advertising. And the commission staff feels like that is potentially a problem, and we need to get that in rules. A minimum number of HHR terminals to qualify. We've had some situations of late with those and some of the other sites, and we'll get it out there, we'll talk about it, and the commission will make a determination. Minimum number of simulcast offerings each day. And we get periodically calls regarding this, you know, and so again, put it out there. And everything that I'm talking about here is consistent with other states. This is very consistent. The minimum number of simulcasting offerings is consistent with Virginia. And when you talk to Kentucky and other states, they're going a very similar direction. Also making sure that we're identifying the operator's general benefit to the state of Wyoming. This is something that we currently have in rules when we're considering simulcasting, but I think we need to expand upon that and impress upon our permittees that this is the main reason we have historic horse racing, is what is the benefit to the state? Expanding on that, also, what is the operator's general benefit to the horse racing industry? When historic racing was passed, it was all about the horse, and we need to make sure that that is explained, and we have that statement potentially added to the rules. And then also future plans and projects, and what that does for us in the commission office. And we have a great communication with the permittees, but what are your projects 2 years? What are your vision 5 years down the road? That allows me to do a budget. That allows me to have a discussion, a potential growth in the industry, and be able to address that appropriately. I heard earlier one of the permittees representatives had mentioned, not in this meeting, the concerns with the oversight in tasking this agency too much. Well, with that, that's what helps if we know and we're able to put together our 5, 6, 10-year plans. So, you know, keep that communication open, but that doesn't necessarily have to be in rules, and it's probably a bit of an overreach at that point. We would like to make sure that we're mirroring other jurisdictions that have high volume wagering. Currently, and again, in the memo that I put together for the packet, we have no minimum number of simulcast offerings each day. As I stated, Virginia does. We have no detailed requirement for the designated areas, clarifying the expectations similar to what we've designated, similar to the designated areas detailed in skill-based amusement game rules. Continuing education, I touched on. We don't have any process in place at this point in time, but we will. No minimum or maximum number of terminals, the revenues generated for HHRs, what is the benefit to the horse racing industry? and the commission's expectations. We will keep this moving. We are going to be focusing on this project and getting those HHR rules out there and to you over the next several months, commissioners. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Charlie. So no action required from the commission.
No.
All righty. We will move to item 5D, professional roping and rodeo events rules, parimutuel wagering.
Thank you, Vice President Broussard. Item 5D, professional rodeo and rodeo events. You do have a draft version, 1.1-11-21-22, that is in your packet, commissioners. And we need to take some time on this. This is an interesting project. The rodeo event was authorized quite a few years ago, and we're now getting to, I think, 2 years ago, potentially. I hope it wasn't 3, but it could be 3 now. So I do apologize for our tardiness on this, but as you all know, there's been a lot going on. Looking at the rodeo rules and looking at how we make those logical transitions from, is this different? Is this not different? And we've done this, and we continue to work on this with other activities that we regulate. It is different. And how do we go from the horse racing side of it, which is highly regulated, with medication, and who can wager, who can't wager? How do we go from a model, and I think you'll hear testimony today, and you have a memo in your packet that addresses it as well. How do we get from a highly medicated or medication regulation in horse racing to potentially a lesser type of a venue with rodeo? They're different horses, they're different livestock, but we have to have that, we have to articulate that. We have to talk about that. We have to have that logical crossing over if that's the direction that you all want to go. And so by articulating it, when we are questioned in a year from now, 2 years from now, we can say we had the discussion, this is what we came up with, and here we are. We can't just go there without the discussion. The other piece of this is the wagering activity. In horse racing, contrary to some testimony you heard at the last meeting, I think, in horse racing, jockeys are not allowed to wager. And that's in our rules. Now, in other states, that's incorrect. And jockeys can wager. They can't wager on the horse that they're on, but they can wager. Well, the discussion has been on the roping side. Can the cowboy wager? Can the stock contractor wager? Can all these different participants wager on those events? So again, we have to have that logical discussion that takes us from horse racing, where you can't, to potentially, again, if this is what the pleasure of the commission, potentially to where you can wager on roping events. We are blazing a new trail. We would be, I think the agency would be remiss if we said, well, it's going to be small, we're not going to see a lot of wagering activity, it's okay. Well, that's not the direction it's going to end up, I don't think. I think this is going to be a big deal. I think this is going to be a big thing, and we need to kind of look at it that way, with the big event deal. So again, having that discussion to where we can either justify or not justify the decisions. And then my third point, again, on this logical discussion, like I've talked about, is do we want to maybe phase in the events. And what I mean by that is, and again, it's totally up to the commission how you want us to do this, but barrel racing and pole bending is different than rough stock. It is different than rodeo. It is more akin to live horse racing. So do we want to carve out at this point the pole bending and barrel racing at this point and keep it separate while we have that discussion and address the rough stock, roping? I mean, roping right now you can wager. So, I mean, we've been doing that since, oh gosh, the 60s, 70s, so we can do that. So those are kind of my 3 points, commissioners. And, you know, I think that if you flip also to the tail end of, you have our staff comments on this. You've got the statute. What we are suggesting is, in this whole process, we would probably delete chapter 12 and replace it with the new language. I think that would be appropriate. And it kind of explains a lot of this for you. With this project, we will need to address chapter 1, our definitions. We'll need to address chapter 2, depending on what direction you go, which is our commission rules, prohibited activities and different things. And then chapter 3, which is appeals and protests and hearings, we'll need to add in some language there. Our officials, chapter 7, which is our licensing and licensees. And then, of course, chapter 9, if we're changing, we do need to make some changes to add the rodeo, but I think that there's a potential we don't have to worry about the wagering rules necessarily at this point, unless there's a new type of a rule or a new type of wagering format. I think it's a relatively straightforward. So that's what I have, commissioners. I would kick it back to you all.
Charlie, I have a couple questions for kind of a historical question. When we did roping in Laramie years ago, what rules were they guided by?
Thank you, Vice President Broussard. They were governed under what we have currently in place. And we have, shortly after it was suggested via the Attorney General's office that we did draft Chapter 12. I spent a lot of time with 2 commissioners primarily drafting that Chapter 12, because early on there was no specific event rules in place. That would have been in 2009, maybe. I'm guessing that we drafted Chapter 12. I'd have to look. So.
Addressing the question of priorities and events, and this could be to Charlie or the commissioners who are rodeo, with a rodeo background, is there a hierarchy of events that are more of a priority? I would guess roping, but I don't know. For those guys who worked on this, Tom or Cactus, is there sort of a list, priority list of rodeo events that we should address first?
Vice President Broussard,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think maybe Commissioner Barry could weigh in on this as well, but I think for those folks that are looking at getting this up and running, certainly the roping events, whether it includes team roping, calf roping, and steer roping, in addition to the rough stock events, are the ones that they're probably looking at moving into new venues initially, and then probably going to follow up at some point with barrel racing and pole bending, and I think that's probably would match up with their, I guess, order of importance. And those folks are in the room, you might ask them.
Okay. Folks in the room. Anybody? No? Okay. Any other questions from commission to Charlie or anyone?
Vice President, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you're looking for guidance from the commission, right, Charlie? So what do you think is going to be easier for you guys so we can get this done in an efficient manner? And we can cover all of our bases and be fair to the industry also.
Vice President Broussard, Commissioner Wildcat, again, thank you. I think at this point, it would be to leave the barrel racing and pole bending as a secondary to address, and focus on the other aspects, but have a continuing discussion with pole bending and have that discussion. I think it would just make it so much simpler for everybody to kind of segment that up a little bit, maybe. You know, these discussions, I think we're breaking them up as just logistical type of a thing. And because pole bending and barrel racing has a potential to require more medication, maybe because of the speed of the event, because of the activity and things, you know, keep that separate at this point, or start on that first and make a decision. Is this what you want to do, commissioners? I mean, there's a couple ways to eat this. I'm not really answering your question. I apologize.
You kind of mirrored exactly what Cactus said. So
Yeah.
essentially you answered my question. I was just looking for something that would be easier for you guys because we're getting ready to go into the season. Have you heard from anybody else in the industry?
Vice President Broussard, Commissioner Wildcat, we've heard from Wyoming Downs. There is a memo here. Other individuals from the industry, no, we have not on this. I've done some research with other states. State to the north, Montana, they do allow for wagering on some rodeo events up there. And you know, we have worked with Wyoming Downs. The draft that's in front of you right now is we took some of the suggestions from an early draft that was submitted by Wyoming Downs, and then Special Agent Steinberg, who has a little more familiarity with this, was the one that put this together and put our twist on it a little bit, so to speak. So I think actually, you know, we have a really good document to start with here. We just need to potentially expand upon it. You'll see on page 12-24 where I added in no roper or rider participating in a parimutuel event shall wager or shall place a wager. We also have the addition, no roper or rider participating in a parimutuel event shall accept the promise or token of any bet with respect to the event. And those are for you to make a determination on whether those are something that are for you, works for us. But again, we have to have that discussion. And that's what I would love to see today. We have some of that discussion and hear maybe some of the people that are participating via Zoom to talk about that. And then, of course, the medication procedures is the same way. And I don't know how many.
Vice President Broussard, I've got Special Agent Steinberg is online if he needs to jump over. He's currently snowed in.
All right.
And then Mr. Jeff True has raised his hand as well, and he's moved over, so.
So let's hear from Mr. True, if you don't mind. If you'd like to make some comments.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and commissioners. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review the memo that I sent regarding participant wagering.
Could you introduce yourself? Tell us if you're working for somebody.
Yes, sir, of course. My name is Jeff True. I'm Senior VP of Sales and Client Services for First Technology, which includes the companies Amtote, Paramax, ExpressBet, and others. And so I'm specifically speaking today on behalf of Amtote as a client, as a vendor and service provider to Wyoming Downs. And discussing the rodeo parimutuel rules comes from the Amtote, from the totalizator perspective, and my experience in the business over 30-something years. So specifically to the question of participant wagering, I'm not going to attempt to belabor the memo that I wrote, but basically it's our view that there's not an opportunity for rodeo participants to negatively affect their performance or the integrity of the wagering pools by the nature of the competition itself, given the short time frames, the nature of scoring, the nature of timed events. And I believe personally pretty strongly that the presence of participant wagers in the event validates the pools themselves, brings more integrity to the pools. And to use kind of the vernacular, it's smart money into the pools. And really, I think you get better odds, you get better indications for the wagering public with participants participating. And the difference between rodeo wagering and horse race wagering, I think is easy to define when you think about the nature of the competition. A roping event, a team roping event can last 4 or 5 seconds. Obviously, a rough stock ride is 8 seconds. And there's so much uncertainty and unknown about the ultimate order of finish, which is what we're wagering on in these things, that it's impossible. It's a practical impossibility for a person to adjust his performance to negatively impact the wager or his outcome. And so rodeo guys want to win, right? They have much greater incentive to win because that provides a bigger payoff long-term than any short-term wager would. Rodeo riders, team ropers, barrel racers, they each have successive events. They have to perform well to continue to perform at all. And so, the negativity associated with, for example, a jockey betting on his horse race, is, to me at least, is very well defined. It's a lot easier for a jockey to check his horse a couple of times during a race or not make a move, and that be indiscernible to stewards or the betting public. And he would do that, of course, in order to allow the wager, allow another horse to win. I just don't see that in rodeo. I don't see it in team roping. I don't see it in certainly rough stock events, because there's just so much, there's so little time. There's so little opportunity for adjustment that it's just not a negative connotation for rodeo participants to wager on themselves or on the event that they're competing in. I might also mention, just because it was part of the discussion earlier, we Wyoming Downs and Amtote and maybe others foresee that the timed events are going to be very important. They're going to be a big part of the actual rodeo parimutuel wagering because there's more participants. As you're probably aware, you could have hundreds, even thousands of teams for team roping, barrel racers for a barrel racing, or calf ropers for a calf roping. You could have dozens and hundreds, even thousands of participants. And so to the extent you prioritize or order what you want to work on first, knowing that you have some team roping and calf roping events already allowed, barrel racing is a fairly important one because of the numbers. We could have standalone events with those participants that could last a day, a weekend, a week, or even longer. Whereas the rodeo events that include rough stock is typically going to be your Saturday night, your Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon rodeo performance, wherein a bull rider may he goes in round 1, round 2, and then if he makes it, he'll go in the short go on Sunday. That's kind of the rough stock event pattern. Whereas team ropers and barrel racers, they're going to run multiple times, multiple levels. The thing is going to be segmented in many ways. And so while I don't think that we have to prioritize or segment out barrel racing and pole bending as different events, though they do, to Director Moore's comments, they do have uniquities to their activity that may require some more rulemaking. I don't think that we want to push them back or create a different set of rules for them. Maybe an additional rule that deals with medications, but we're not in that particular big of a hurry. We do want to participate. We do want to start developing these events and start putting some things on the calendar. And so I would say there's some equal pressure on all events, and maybe, frankly, some equal pressure on you to kind of make some decisions about some of those heavy questions. But with regard to the question of participant wagering, I'll defer the memo and my prior comments. At any time that the commission would like to see more detail about how some of these things would be structured in the tote system and how we would handle them from a wagering perspective and from the tote setup, I'm happy to demonstrate that. There is a section of the memo that speaks to the data requirement for rodeo and for all of these events, and we're addressing that data element head on and expect to have some significant developments in that front before too long. So I'll rest there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jeff. Could you define a little better what your calendar looks like? Are you thinking this summer, next summer? Is there a business plan, business model for rodeo?
Potentially there's a late summer event that we could generate. The roping events, as you mentioned, that are currently legal, we could generate those, we think, much easier. The full rodeo is going to require some cooperation from multiple parties, but the data element is going to be our long pole in the tent, if you will. Until and unless we get the data element solidified and get it ready to distribute, we're not going to be able to have events that meet your standards. So late summer at earliest is my estimation.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for? Yeah.
Vice President Broussard?
Yeah. Go ahead, Cactus.
Yes, I'd like to make some comments with regards to some statements from Mr. Chu. I'm going to say that I'm going to agree with him with regards to roper and rider participation in the pari-mutuel events. I think it's drastically different than it is in a horse race where you're competing against fellow competitors in a race that happens all at one time, whereas as he stated, the roping event, oftentimes like in the team roping, can happen over a period of hundreds of teams. And actually the ropers or riders themselves are already essentially betting on themselves with their entry fees going into a pool. And that same pool then is paid back to them. So in this particular case, I think there is actually a valid point for looking at the fact that they certainly could be considered a part of that betting pool. And especially when you're looking at team roping events with hundreds and hundreds of teams, they would certainly make a large portion of those people interested in being a part of that pari-mutuel event. So from my opinion, I think in this particular case, these people could be considered reasonable participants for wagering with regards to that. And then the second thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is maybe something that hasn't really been thrown out on the table, but maybe that 800-pound gorilla is medication and testing procedures for rodeo events. I wish he is back on. Commissioner Barry's back on, and I think he can speak more intelligently than anyone with regards to this, and certainly with regards to most of the timed events as far as roping and stuff like that goes. I don't think we can expect testing for drugs and stuff like that. And I'd like him to address that because he knows this situation better than anyone.
Commissioner Barry?
Mr. President, well, thank you for the confidence, Cactus. First of all, I think I missed my computer shut off, so I missed part of the discussion, but I got in the end of Mr. True's comments. I think we need to approach the rodeo rules completely separate from the horse racing rules. I think we're trying to equate the two, and I don't feel that you can do that. I think we're dealing with apples and oranges here. And it's unfortunate that horse racing betting came first rather than the rodeo, because I think that would have helped alleviate some of the angst we have about trying to make rodeo rules the same or equal to the horse racing rules. And I agree with Cactus. We're going to have to take a hard look at not doing anything about the medication rules. The average age of a NFR competition horse is 18 to 22 years of age. And to equate it maybe to the National Football League, if you tested all those players on the field, how many of them would pass? So I think that really needs to be looked at closely. As far as Mr. True's comments about betting on yourself, I don't see a problem with that, because, you know, you don't know till 5 minutes before the competition starts what your stock draw is if you're entering a roping event. So, or what your competition stock draw is. I mean, you know, if somebody draws a way better steer than you did, that's going to affect that. The barrel racing is, you know, the ground has a lot to do with it, how the horse feels that day, how the rider feels that day. I don't think there's a lot of ways to cheat on these events. And so that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Commissioner Barry. Any other comments or questions for Mr. True or the commissioners who worked on it so far? Or I know you have a question, Charlie, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Vice President Broussard. Mr. True, do you think the data dependency part of your document, do you think that should be in rules? Or do you think that should be just some other way to do that? How do you feel about that?
Thank you, Director Moore. It's my understanding that you prescribe that data should be available, and I agree with that 100%. It's a practical requirement in order to move the sport, or move the practice of parimutuel wagering on rodeo forward. As I mentioned in the document, without data, which is where we are now, there is no prevalent wagering on the sport. With data, we will catalyze that wagering. We will standardize the data and present it in a form that, you know, we've proven that it works in horse racing. It's a natural, logical concept that you're not going to really bet any volume or with any regularity or with any confidence without data. So, you know, to the degree that you want to prescribe what that data is or looks like, you know, I think you could go any number of directions. But the requirement that standardized data be available prior to the event and available to the public and distributed in all the channels that are going to be used in wagering, I think is absolutely the right way to go. I think it is a requirement to legitimize the practice of parimutuel wagering on rodeo, or fixed odds wagering on rodeo for that matter. How you put it in the rule, you know, I've always been a kind of an advocate of doing as little as you can get away with in rules, and requiring, you know, a standard be met, as opposed to saying you've got to have the last 5 performances or the last 10 performances, and you've got to know, you know, the name of the horse and the name of the rodeo pen. And, you know, I would say, I would discourage you from getting too prescriptive in the rules about the data requirement, aside from requiring a standard that candidly, we just don't know what that standard is yet. We're developing a plan, and we're developing, I think, a standard for what that data is going to be. I think it's going to be an evolutionary process. And until we get a few of these rodeo events and a few wagering pools completed, I don't think we have the knowledge to be that prescriptive. So meet a minimum threshold of requirement, make a judgment call when we have some events behind us. Maybe there's some things that we could learn from those, but I'll rest there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you answered the question for me. Thank you. You know, just a bit of a follow-up comment on that. I think that what we've experienced in the past is providing that data to the public. And we've missed that over the last years when we've done these events, and kind of what does that look like? And I think with the technology, with the ability we have now to pull that information, I think that's crucial that the public has that information and can make a logical decision with that. So I think that standardized data requirements would be very important to have in the rules, not necessarily putting the requirements, but just saying that we need to have a standardized forms that we're putting out there. So thank you for that. To follow up on what, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention, if you would like, I can show you a screen of what we think at least a mock setup of this data would look like, if you'd like to see that.
Absolutely, please do.
Stand by 1 second, I'll share my screen. It's disabled currently. If someone can enable my screen share.
We're working on it right now.
Okay,
Go ahead and try it now.
there we go. So hopefully you can see that screen now. What you'll see here is it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? But what I have done is sort of generate what I think are some basic and informative sets of information. This would be a roping event. Here, this is the roper. He's listed as a header. You see the dates, the location and condition of the event, the rating of the roper, his catch percentage, his ROI, the placing, who is his healer. That's kind of what I think the roping events data looks like. If, for example, you say Lori Merritt was the header, he last roped on April 2nd at Wyoming Downs event, which is a 15.5 point, 50 and older event, which some of us might qualify for. He had a rating of 6. He placed 3rd in the event. His healer was Ben Tibbetts. His overall catch percentage and his ROI percentage. ROI meaning how much he spent in entry fees versus what he won, which I think was a pretty interesting sort of rating. Same thing for the healer here in this event, and who his header was when he was a healer. Looking at rough stock events, we've got bull riders and bronc riders here. Same sort of thing. Date, condition, what was his score, what the rider earned, even the name of the bull, or in this case, the bronc rider rode. There's a note here, cover percentage, that might be another stat, but this is kind of the data that we're looking at. And looking at it from sort of a macro level, we've got to be able to figure out A, how to collect the information, B, how to archive it, C, how to reproduce it in a format that both the tote system can absorb and that consumers of this data can understand and readily access. So if you look at the horse racing model, Equibase has chart collars. They have standardized production or distribution of that data after the event. And if I can take one more moment of your time, I'll show you what I think is sort of how it's set up in the tote. This is a roping event where we have, if you look here, rounds 1, 2, and 3. Each round has 60 ropers and they're broken up into 3 20-roper segments. If you think about this in terms of how it equates to pari-mutuel wagering, this is the order of finish that you're betting on, right? If I want to bet on the number 10 team, Chance Ray and Dustin Ewart, we've estimated they're going to be 5-1 at post time. You can bet win, place exact, and pick 3. All of this stuff needs to be set up in the tote. We need to have the data in advance so that we can set up the tote the day before and make those wagers available to the public. And this data setup, data distribution model has to be organized and programmed before any of this will happen. And when I say macro level, there's going to be a company that does this. We have to figure out how to monetize that data management, data distribution. And so we're working on some things with some large rodeo, roping, Western lifestyle, Western event data managers, large companies that do this. And I think we're down the road, and we're working on this product. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of that.
I can follow up.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. True, this is Charlie Moore again. So what you're showing up there is win, place, and show. Did you say trifecta and then a pick 3? Is that what I heard? Or
I see right here, we've got win,
Okay.
place, exacta, pick 3, but yes, it could be any of those pari-mutuel pools because it's an order of finish wager.
So again, I think what you're saying is we don't need to reinvent the wheel on the pari-mutuel rules. We can utilize current wagering accepted practices basically, right?
Yes, sir, exactly.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Anything else, Charlie?
No, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Just if I could continue on, and I apologize. Speaking to what Commissioner Barry had said, I want to clarify something. Our office has, we're looking at this not as trying to make it similar to horse racing. We just want to make sure that we have that discussion when it comes up down the road, that it's not similar. So, and yes, I have spent a lot of time on horseback in my life and spent a lot of time, but I just want to make sure this office is managing the office. We need to have that discussion. How did we go from here to here? And we're having that discussion now. One other thing, just to address the barrel racing and pole bending, and to share with you something that I found really interesting. Several years ago, I happened to stop in at one of our racing facilities that happened to have a barrel racing prior to the racing event. And at the end of the shed rows, they have a bucket at the end of each one of the barns. And those buckets are to eliminate the problem of throwing a needle and a syringe into the stall. It's so the participants take their needles and syringes and dispose of them properly. Well, I'll be very honest, I was quite shocked. So I just wanted to share that with you on this. I think that a simple way to maybe get over the medication aspect of this is to make it a discretionary. We have to have a veterinarian on the grounds. We will have a state veterinarian there. Let that individual have that authority to drug test at any point in time if he sees an issue. We could do something like that. There's ways of dealing with this without going down the same road that we have with horse racing. So again, I think I've got quite a bit of guidance here. I don't know if you want to have a motion or if you want me to bring you some options at the next meeting. What would you like me to do, commissioners?
Thank you, Charlie. Well, I think for the commission, do we want to give the staff direction or maybe take bites of these rules for the next meeting? Sorry, let me interrupt my own. Thank you, Mr. True. Honestly, was very helpful to me. I don't know about the rest of the commission, but very educational. I thank you for that. The question, I guess, going back to the commission, do we want to, maybe after the legislature, we ask the staff to maybe take a chunk of the rules, either the section 28 or 29?
Vice President Broussard, I'd like for the staff to bring some options, keep it kind of open right now because I know what is going on. And they're having to keep abreast of a lot of the other activities. So I'd like to see more recommendations. I'm going to do some more research myself. I'm not up to speed with a lot of the events or anything like that, but I'd go on Charlie's direction.
And I know we need to do something before Dr. Barry gets off the commission. I know, sorry, go ahead.
Follow up on
Yep.
something that you said. I think it would be appropriate to, if nothing else, have Dr. Berry join us to the completion of these. Sorry about that. What I would suggest is, because Dr. Berry's term is close to completing, to ask or beg Dr. Berry to stay on as a consultant for the commission through the end of developing these rules.
Well, that'd be up to him. I agree.
What's
with
it
that.
pay?
Yeah. Donuts.
I decline to answer that.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the confidence.
Well, I thought of that over the weekend, trying to figure out how do we walk through this, and I think it's in the best interest of the state of Wyoming and everybody involved to have Dr. Berry a part of this to the end. So
would like to make a comment, Mr. Greer. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Vice President Broussard, Commission, Jack Greer with 307 Horse Racing, and just wanted to add to the conversation here that I think this is super exciting for the rodeo industry as a whole, super exciting for Wyoming. It's exciting to be a part of that. At the forefront of this for what's going to end up being a big deal, as Director Moore mentioned. I think this is going to be successful. That being said, a couple things I would just like to add, being that it's somewhat relevant now. We are going to have the bronc match again this year. We would love to be able to pari-mutuel that event. So that is coming up, and I planned on sticking around in Casper for a couple days this week and having some of those conversations. In addition to that, we have the relay races again this year. Interesting how that falls into roping rodeo rules. We may want to think about how that can also tie into relay races. And taking that one step further, we were going to try to have a wiener dog race this year. Can you pair mutual with the wiener dog races? So just some stuff to think about, but as a whole, this is exciting. So look forward to being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know the one thing that's certain is the rules will not be perfect ever. So my opinion is we start taking chunks and making them acceptable and get moving. Not today.
Vice Chairman Broussard.
Yes, go ahead.
A couple questions I had. I think it's a great idea to keep our hometown vet on the string. That'd be great. But couple things is, one is this is not historical horse racing. This is rodeo, and it is a different animal. One of the questions I have: how does the commission qualify stock contractors? I mean, there's most of these events are already under a auspice of some kind of rodeo association that has their, you got to be a qualified stock contractor. So where are we laying and putting another layer of what I want to say, responsibilities on contractors? You don't put on a PRCA rodeo without having a card. There's a lot of rules there that dictate how that performance is handled and what the rules and regulations are. And the second thing is, I'm more worried about the betting public than I am a bronc rider or a team roper betting on himself, because the best of the bronc riders find one they can't ride that day, and regardless how hard they try. And I don't think any bronc rider is going to step off because he wants to win the bet. And so I really don't see where keeping them out of the betting pool. And just not that I have anything to say about rodeo stars, but a buddy will be betting and if they can't. So anyway, I think I guess to sum it all up, I hate to see something that could happen, be good for rodeo, change the sport in Wyoming. That's the thing I hate, because it's been going on with side betting and everything else for years. The state never had anything to do with it. And so I hate to see we change the sport in Wyoming, because, we got a pretty good name in the nation that we have good cowboys. We have good rodeos, big rodeos. And then we got some local rodeos around that bring a lot of money into their communities with their rodeos, nightly rodeos. And so I guess I'd hate to see any of that really get fuddled up because we were wanting to bet on it. So I guess enough said. I'm just cautious how we set the rules up, that we don't change the sport. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ritholder. Charlie, do you want to tackle the question one about stock contractors, or do we have anyone else that wants to comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Broussard. As far as the stock contractors going and qualifying of those, how we've done it in the past was, if there were PRCA stock contractors already approved, and we did never have to go much further than that. Again, the original rules that we developed, we started out, Chapter 12, we started out and we mirrored as best we could the PRCA rules. Then we realized throughout the discussion, and we had two commissioners that worked on this quite a bit, and we realized that maybe we'd set the bar a little too high. And so we backed off of some of those PRCA rules, and that's what we have currently. And I think we would approach a very similar, we sure don't want to change the event. We don't want to change rodeos in the state of Wyoming. That's not what we're doing. We're only looking at if you're wagering on rodeo events, we're not going to, if you choose not to, status quo. But, we do have to keep that vision of, too much can be too much, and pay attention to that. So we will.
Thank you, Charlie.
Vice President Broussard, we have Mr. Schiffer has his hand up, and then a Mr. Ben Tibbetts
Okay,
also.
Mr. Schiffer, you have the floor.
Good morning, Vice President Broussard, members of the commission. I think all of us are very hopeful that this idea can come to fruition. I think the greatest incentive for people not to cheat and for it to gain acceptance would be to think of a scenario where some of the monies that are wagered are returned to the participants. In other words, part of the pool goes to the amount of money that's added to the events. And so that there is a real incentive for the participants to gain from participating legitimately as opposed to cheating. I mean, cheating is always a dangerous thing, and if there's enough money and enough incentive otherwise, we always have to be careful of that. But I think the other half of it is to reward the participants from the pools that are being generated, not just the permittees or the people who are wagering, but also those involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, who else had their hand up?
Mr. Ben Tibbetts and Mr. True has raised his hand again as
Okay,
well.
we'll go with Mr. Tibbetts first. You have the floor.
Hello, yes, I'm Ben Tibbetts. I was asked to be here by, well, I'm a producer and I was asked to be here by those that are at Gateway East and Gateway West. Just speaking to the producer, the contractor side of it, I think that it is important to have producers there that have some integrity and want to keep integrity in the sport. And I believe that we addressed that a little bit in the rules that we wrote this summer for the rodeo events. And I think that you want to be careful about the producers that you have that are just starting or seeing that they want to jump on the bandwagon of something that's new and exciting. And you want to stick with some producers or contractors that have been in the sport, have a history of being upright and honest about what they're doing so that they can keep the integrity of the sport going. And I think that we spoke to that a little bit in the rule book that we wrote. I don't remember if that got submitted with the final copy that we did, but I do think that it would be easy to address that point.
Thank you. So we'll now go to Mr. True. If you have a comment, Jeff?
Yes, sir. Just to follow up to Mr. Schiffer's comment about part of the wagering benefiting the rodeo contestants themselves. To me, and I think to Wyoming Downs, that's really part of the plan, right? You've got a certain takeout for each pool. There's a certain amount of that takeout that's, going to be taxed. There's a certain amount that would normally, under existing operator, certainly part of that revenue from wagering is going to support the event itself. And so getting the purses up, if you will, getting the payouts up for rodeo and roping events will naturally include parts of the wagering revenue. The bigger the purse, the better the ropers. The better the ropers, the higher the wagers. The higher the wagers, the better the revenue. So it all kind of works together, and I think that's definitely part of the plan. What percentages, what amounts, I don't think we've drilled down that far, but it's certainly going to be a part of the plan to include some wagering revenue to the event purse itself.
Thank you. All right, Nick, any other folks on Zoom? Any other folks in the room would like to comment? Commissioners? So I guess my general opinion is that without taxing the staff at this point with the legislature and all the other rules going, but I would like to see personally it sort of moving forward again. Is that the general idea from commission? Yes. Now, do we need to say or do anything else, Charlie?
I think we're fine right at this point. This has been very helpful for us in the office to get some guidance, hear the discussion from the public as well. So thank you very much. And obviously getting the engagement of the commission here to talk about it.
Yeah, it's been great and helpful to me. Thank you, everyone. So if there's no action required from commission, we will move on.
I can move on, sir.
All right. move
All
on,
right.
Charlie.
Well, thank you. Item 5E, skill-based amusement game technical specifications. Commissioners, you have a memo that was provided to you. Special Agent Laramendi and I were able to speak with a few of the skill-based amusement game vendors last week. In the conversation, we found it, first of all, very helpful. We now have a little better understanding of the equipment, the machines utilized in the gameplay. As a small vendor, they express, a couple of them as small vendors express their concerns, but did agree technical specifications need to be spelled out and not utilized to fence people out. I'm proposing tabling the technical specifications at this time, taking a break, gathering more information, and proceeding at a later date. Again, not dumping the project, but just taking a little slower approach. I know this couldn't be much slower. It's been a slow process through this, but we have rules that address quite a bit of the standards at this point. So allow the rules to get in place, allow us to spend time through our audits, through our on-site inspections via the rules, that'll give us the ability to get additional information and then regroup back on those technical specifications. And hopefully, we'll have a better idea of what does apply. The other piece of this that I think is important, right now, a lot of our comments we've received have been heavily loaded by the current operators, which is good. But in the near future, we're going to have additional operators in the state. We're going to have additional vendors in the state. We're going to have a whole different group of people. And that will allow us to draw from not only what we have currently, but what we will see over the next 6 months and have a better cross-section and better serve, I think, the public and the public's interests. So that is my suggestion to you at this point, to table this. No action at this point would be my suggestion.
Vice President Broussard.
Yeah. Commissioner Covello, yeah, you have the floor.
Yes, I'd like to thank Director Moore for really a proactive stance with regards to this. Obviously, we don't want to fence anyone out. It's a huge undertaking that you guys have tried to jump into and get going, and appreciate all the fact that not fencing someone out is extremely important at this point. And so obviously we want to have as much in place as we can, but having the right stuff is paramount to doing it right. So I'm in favor of tabling.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Vice
Yeah.
President?
Commissioner Wildcat?
So you're looking at tabling them. Is there a time frame to revive those and bring them back? Because we want to ensure parity across all industries, and we're looking at tech specs for HHR currently.
Thank you, Commissioner Wildcat. I have not had an opportunity to look at a timeline, but I think and I know this is probably not what you want to hear, but it's sooner than later to address this. I can get a timeline to you over the next few weeks if that would be sufficient for you. Again, absolutely not putting this in the trash can. We have a very good set of technical standards. We also have a really good set of rules that will hit the ground hopefully in the next few weeks or whatever that timeline is. That's out of my control. So we can observe what is working, implement any changes we have to those rules, and implement tech specs into that same document, into the rules.
At a later date.
At a later date. I would expect by fall, if that works for everybody else.
I think we get the rules put to bed, and then we work on what's next. But those, I guess, potential operators, they can see the direction the technical standards are going. So I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the end result, but that's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah. Okay. So any other commissioners have a question or comment about what Charlie just said, the timeline?
And I have just a follow-up on that. I want the commission to understand that Mr. Laramendi and myself, you know, the discussion was not, this was with a very small operator. And hearing his very informal discussion with us and seeing some of the problems that he foresees and what he says, and like he said, he says, I want technical specifications. I want some guidance, but you need to understand this is how we operate, and you're listening to how he functions in the world out there, and it is a little different. And these people are in the market, they are here, and just taking, as Mr. Laramendi and I left the meeting, I think we had a whole another feel for that. And again, it was very informal. It was not top down. It was basically bottom up talking to us. And I think it is in our best interest to look at this and come up with some middle ground, hopefully, and move forward.
I like the bottom up approach. All right. So any comments from staff or?
I do have one. Vice
Okay.
President Broussard, just to go on what Director Moore had said, I think one of the things that we're also looking at over the course of the next 6-8 months is take the rules and the proposed tech specs and see, you know, just currently right now, we can find a section of the rules that's, you know, A and B that covers a page of tech specs. So is it necessary to have, do we need to have it in 2 documents? So we can really start looking at these and comparing it and see what we don't need and what we do need.
You don't want to make your job harder,
Negative.
do you? Okay. All right. So we'll now open it up to general public. If you guys want to make a comment, please come up, introduce yourself.
Good morning, Matt Pascal, Entertainment Experts, Cowboy Skill. I just want to start by saying, Vice President Broussard, Commissioners, Director, this has been an interesting process, right? And we were very excited about the rules getting through, and obviously there's a process that has to go through. We're looking forward to that. The tech specs process has been again, another interesting process, and we've all learned an awful lot. And I think I said one of the first meetings we all were at, like, I really did appreciate the patience and the time that the commission has taken walking this through, right? As Wyoming is really the tip of the spear in setting some new precedent for what is an emerging technology that we're all going to see. And even in this commission, I heard the conversation about rodeo versus horse racing, right? From 10,000 feet, it all looks the same. It's all horses and those kind of things, but there are some nuanced differences that are very important to talk about. And I think the same thing for what we do versus what gaming has been traditionally. And I appreciate the fact that you all are looking at that. So thank you very much for that. Going forward, I think the one thing to keep in mind, and we're engaged, our manufacturer's engaged. Gracie, we've worked with the folks from Gracie, we've worked with the folks from Patriot on talking about this and trying to do more of an industry overview, not just, I know we get up and talk a lot, we're a little bit more organized, but we want to make sure that you hear from everybody, right? So work together on this and get it through. I think Director Moore's invited. We have on Thursday, we have a kind of a round table. One of the things we've built is an opportunity for us all to sit down and discuss the rules, right? There are some changes in the road, right? It's not just business as usual once the rules come out. So we want to know what's expected of us, and we're all on the same page. So I'd like to formally invite any commissioner that would like to attend to that meeting. That's Thursday. It's here at the Hilton Garden Inn at 10 o'clock. And we're going to walk through literally line by line the rules and make sure that we as operators appreciate what's expected of us and make sure that we're compliant and make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page together. So very excited about that. And then the only thing that I would say about the tech specs, and again, we are fully in support of regulation, technical specifications, all those things. Just want to make sure that it fits, again, what our market is, right? And as we go into the market and we invest a tremendous amount of money into, obviously, I've already invested a tremendous amount of money, and as expansion comes with the rules coming out, right? And hopefully we're working very hard at the Capitol today to put Senate File 41 through, which gives us some sideboards, right? And kind of controls where our industry can go, gives us some limits, you know, hopefully controls some saturation points and things like that, and makes our industry, you know, profitable for a long time to come. But as we do that, we're going to be investing in the market, and we want to make sure that the investment we're currently making is going to fit the long-term views of what Wyoming is looking for. So I just wanted to say that out loud and keep that in mind, right, as we go down this road. So again, appreciate the tabling, and I know it's been a hard road. I know you folks have spent way more time on this than you ever anticipated. But I do want everybody to know that from our perspective, we're willing to work as hard as we need to work and work with you to get it done.
Thank you. For the record, it's harder getting here than sitting in the meeting.
Fair enough.
Frank Fina on behalf of Cowboy Skill and Pacematic. I just want to reiterate everything that Matt has said and thank the director for taking the time and his staff for taking the time and paying close attention to these issues. And I really do think that talking to the actual operators and even locations would be immensely informative here, as I think they are very well aware. And we really embrace this process. I know it's been stressful at times for all of us, but we really do embrace this process. We love the engagement. We're glad we're going to be able to talk, and we have been talking with staff. We believe that we can get these technical specs done sooner rather than later, and we're really going to work towards that with this commission and with the staff. And thank you, President Broussard. You're still the vice president, right? And commissioners, thanks so much.
Any questions for these guys from the commission? Charlie? Comments, questions? Nick, we're good? All right, thank you guys, appreciate your input. Charlie, do you need us to do anything official or formal on tabling this, or?
Nope, you've tabled it, so we're
Okay.
good. We're good at this
Table
point.
that.
I think we're fine.
All right, before we move on, last chance for anybody on Zoom or, oh, come on up.
How are you guys doing? How are you doing? My name is Ray Salazar. Okay. My name is Ray Salazar. I'm with the company Trestle Gaming. And just wanted to introduce myself. I've met David Carpenter a couple of times. We currently have 6 skill game approved devices in the state of Nebraska. And I understand Wyoming's almost going to copy that. We just want to let you guys know that we're 100% behind the new standards you guys are going with. We'd be ready to go. So we're just in the process of that. I wanted to introduce myself. You can put a face with a name. And I don't know if you guys have any questions, but it's something that we're fully behind. We can support all the rules and regulations you're going with. But
Thank you for coming up. But hey, hold on just one second. Thank you for making the journey. Do we have any questions? Mr. Salazar? Oh.
My name is Ray Salazar. The company is Trestle Gaming.
On your shirt?
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Salazar? All right. Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you all very
Appreciate it.
much. Mhm.
All right. If there are no comments from Zoom or the room or the commissioners, we'll move on. All right, gone. All right, now we're moving on to item 5F, bingo, pull tabs, Calcutta.
5F, bingo pull tabs in Calcutta. Just wanted to give you a brief update. We're still waiting. We have some language revision that we'll bring back to you at the next meeting. If you recall, at our November meeting, we did move that, the bingo and pull tab rules, Calcutta rules, to basically doing a final review. And we do have some updates to that, and we should have those for you for the next meeting. So no action required there. You guys, you like that no action?
Yeah, moving on. Get to Home Depot. Thank you, Charlie. Does anyone need to comment or would like to comment? Commissioners? No? Okay. Now we're going to flip the page and go to item 6, off-track wagering, alpha staff level approvals.
Yes, thank you, Vice President Broussard. Staff level approvals. I'm going to turn this over to Special Agent Lara Mende to explain what the proposal is.
Vice President Broussard, members of the commission, this topic has come up, and I think it's really good, actually during this meeting, when we've just went through and approved, I think at least 4 that have already been approved. And kind of what we're envisioning on the historic horse racing side is similar to what we have on the sports wagering side. We currently have like a catalog. One operator applies for that, and if it's approved, it goes in the catalog, and then any operator can use it without us going and getting approval after approval after approval. Now, that doesn't and would not negate the operator's responsibilities to contact the commission, advise the commission of what their plan is, and then it would be approved at a staff level once the math model or the theme or the operator or the vendor has come through like a primary commission approval. And that's kind of what we're looking at doing and getting some direction so we can remove, some of our agenda items that have come before you all once before, twice before, maybe 3 times before, and just kind of streamline that process.
So let me ask Tom or Charlie, didn't we do something similar to this 4 or 5 years ago where the skins were not a commission level? And is that what, are we re-asking that?
So
Or is it
before
something
the.
Not asking the same question.
All right.
We're asking a similar question.
Okay.
So, but prior to the kind of the procedure was if an operator had already a pre-approved math model and it was a new skin change, we could do that. But now what we're looking for is if an operator has brought, let's say, Acme and gotten Acme approved in 15 themes, that would go into the catalog, and then any permitted vendor could see that catalog and say, hey, Acme is approved and these themes are approved, we want to use that. They would submit that request to us. We would verify that it has gone through an initial commission approval. Signatures are the same. There's no changes or modifications to the math models. And then we could just approve that. I mean, and some of that, it would really facilitate much quicker response from our office.
Sure.
And give the operators, being able to change things because they want to keep their floors fresh and new. And
I get it. So logically speaking, if some vendor math model has been approved by the commission, then the operator shouldn't really matter. Is that what you're saying? So my question, I guess, is if we approve a certain thing 6 or 8 years ago, would that give you the opportunity to revisit the organization, the provider, and just reaffirm that in staff?
correct. That would be correct, yep.
Okay. So,
And just for the record, though, a lot of things that have been approved 6 or 8 years ago, those weed themselves out.
yeah,
And things are much newer, so
Right.
it rolls through. But there's some of them that were approved in one of our requests today. They were approved about 4 years ago originally. And we verified that they were in fact approved and everything is the same. And
yeah.
so.
Logically speaking, if it's approved, it's approved. So do you need us to make a motion on this? Because I'm Do you want it official? Do you want it?
Yeah, I think it
Minutes?
would, I think it would be helpful to have a motion giving us to do that. You know, and to follow up a little bit on what Mr. Laramendi said, you know, if we have a game theme that was approved 5 years ago, and typically in these situations, those themes have had updates throughout. We are requiring those to be updated, and they're having to submit new lab reports for those. Because there's updates going on constantly with some of this.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion that would allow staff to in-house approve existing approved math models, providers, skins. Is that kind of the direction we're going? Did I say that correctly?
Vice President, I have a question real quick. for
Okay,
you,
sure.
Ashley. And kind of mentioning what Charlie had said, so is there going to be a threshold if there is an update, if something needs to be changed that you guys will approve?
So currently, as it stands now, like hot fixes and things like that, if it doesn't change the structure of the game, the payout models or the math models, you know, we'll get like the director had said, we'll get updates for, say, version 1.2. It'll be a hot fix because in version 1.2, they found that something weird happened and you touch this and it does something funny. But if it doesn't change the underlying operation of the game or commission rates, then that's already allowed to be approved at a staff level. So if we got an update for a game that completely changed the structure of it, the takeout rates and everything else, that would have to come back for an approval. And then that updated version would go in the catalog as moving forward, this version's been approved.
So in essence, a operator could look through the existing approved models and just pick and expedite the process.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, I want to caveat that was that it wouldn't negate the operator's responsibility to submit that to our office. So an operator couldn't just one day wake up and say, I don't like those 5 themes. These 5 themes are approved. We're going to buy these and put them on our floor. Just that still will have to come through. And we can send out some guidance on to the operators about how this is what that'll look like now. And this is where you can find what's approved. Make sure you still contact us and let us know what you're looking for so we can approve that and then you can move forward.
So on a real live example, the ones we did today for 307, is that correct?
307 and Wyoming Horse Racing have both have ones that have
So
already
that
been
would have
approved.
shortened the process for them by a month or so?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so what's the desire of the commission at this point?
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes.
Motion to approve the Gaming Commission staff, the ability to make staff level approvals with the intent to streamline the process, of course, via the current submittal procedures.
Second.
Okay. Any comments from the commission? New comments?
Public also.
Anything from staff other than what you've done? No. Anything from the Zoom folks or the room? No comments or questions? Okay. If seeing none, we will move to the vote. I'm not going to repeat the motion, but all in favor of that motion, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Same- Oh. You were for, right, Shelley? Okay, we're gonna take you as a yes. All right, moving on.
Yes.
Zoom. Okay, number 6, off-track wagering, terms or phrases.
Yes, thank you. In 2014, the commission discussed and considered and subsequently voted to accept the following policy document. 9 years later, we find this document is outdated at best. The commission needs to consider an update of this policy or disregard it completely. To give you a little bit of background on how this, this came about in 2013, we need to maybe frame it in, look at the date. This was shortly after historic racing had been authorized. It was within a matter of a few weeks that we had one of our first locations open up in the state. And, as new operations, good people out there, a sign went up, casino. Well, that subsequently, that individual removed the sign, and it was not a problem. It wasn't an issue. And the commission felt like it was important to come in and follow up with this document. There's quite a few things that I think need to be removed from this document. But at the end of the day, an off-track wagering location is not a casino. It's not a racino. It is gambling, and it is gaming also. And so, I think that we either need to just back away from this document completely and allow the operators to understand they need to use discretion with advertising, or we need to come up with a new document and get your blessing. Also, additionally, and we'll address this in rules and regulations, we need to make sure that there's phrases as far as underage gaming on all advertisement, print or otherwise, that goes out. And then also the problem gambling piece needs to be posted on all print advertising that we have. So again, open it up for discussion, I guess, commissioners. It's at your pleasure how to handle this.
So this was just to address marketing of the HHR when it first started?
Marketing and location signage.
All of that. Okay. Any comments from the commission or questions to Charlie or Nick? You?
Thank you. I don't think that the commission has a regulatory authority to require this or to mandate this. All of our HHR, excuse me, folks, I believe that they would already understand that by utilizing one of these words, it could completely turn how their entity or their facility is labeled. I mean, you don't want to, they're not going to label their facility a casino, so that's what they would know, on their own. So I just, regulatory wise, I don't see, it's a stretch. And I understand why it was done. But I put the trust in the HHR folks that they would know what they're doing and how they're going to market it. I don't think that we need to mandate how to market their property in the proper way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, HHR was in the same place that the skill games folks are right now, where it's important to label yourself correctly. So, Charlie, what is the staff's recommendation? Do we want to vote to eliminate this from our process, or?
Yes, Vice President Broussard, if that's the direction that you would like to go, I would like to have this document dated October 13th, 2014, removed and
burned.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, we'd entertain a motion at this moment regarding the removal of this document, if anybody's interested.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second, and we'll open up for some more debate.
Kyle Ridgway with 307 Horse Racing. I appreciate the discussion. I think one of the things I want to address is, I don't know if we're part of how this came about in the first place, but you know, in our marketing materials, we've labeled all our locations, you know, Derby Club, and then below that it says Gaming Parlor. And we had some discussion with the staff about the word gaming, and that was where this document came out. And my point in response was, it's called the Gaming Commission now, as opposed to the Parimutuel Wagering Commission, because the statutory language has changed, and so the legislature in certain ways has changed what the language is related to all the activities that are being regulated. And so that's kind of one of the problems you have as a regulator in using specific words or phrases, is language changes over time. Even in a couple of years, what colloquially someone might call something can change completely. Generationally, it can change quickly too. And I think all the operators in HHR have good enough relationships with the staff where we know where the lines are. If the line is there, I think everybody would be receptive to that phone call from staff saying, hey, we would prefer, we don't like that, or we don't like this because it's not representing the industry properly. But I know that all of us have worked very hard to try to label it properly. I saw the new Horse Palace signage on Wyoming Boulevard now says racing, gaming, off-track betting, and something else. I mean, it's properly labeling what we're doing. So we'd be in favor of removing that, with the concept that as we work through some of these rules and regulations that are site-specific, maybe we can all come up with something collectively that makes sense. But I think all the HHR operators have a good enough relationship with the staff to know where the line is on this without having a document like that.
Thank you, Kyle. Anyone else would like to make a comment? Issue at hand? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll call the vote. All in favor of removing this document, please state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Okay. All right, you can burn it. So moving on, item number 6C, Charlie.
Yes.
Simulcasting complaint.
And just a bit of a housekeeping, just so you know, commissioners, we do have lunch here at this point. We just have one more item here on 6C. You did receive a memorandum and a packet in your files regarding this matter, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Laramendi to explain the situation and the resolution of the issue.
Vice President Broussard. Item 6C is in reference to a simulcast complaint that the commission received on December 2nd, 2022 at approximately 9 p.m. Commission staff, along with, I believe, several commissioners actually had received an anonymous email regarding the use of FastBet Mobile at certain properties in the Natrona County area. The submitter of the complaint specifically referred to the use of FastBet Mobile at 2 smaller sites in Natrona County. The complaint stated that at the 2 locations, you could make a FastBet account, but you were unable to fund it or withdraw funds from that account without going to a full-service OTB, because the FastBet app is directly tied to a self-serve terminal. Special Agent Steinberg and myself conducted an inquiry into the complaint and verified that the majority of the complaint was accurate. We contacted Wyoming Downs about resolutions to those complaints, and I think in your packet, or you may have received an email of Wyoming Downs resolution. Wyoming Downs has opted to place self-serve tote machines in all of their locations, ones that are pending opening and the 2 small sites in Natrona County. Those have been on order, so they're not in place yet. But once they get here, they will have self-serve tote terminals that work in conjunction with FastBet to alleviate any inability to place wagers or fund your fast bet account or withdraw from your fast bet account. And I would gladly take any questions. I think if the commission as a whole is satisfied with the direction that Wyoming Downs is going to alleviate the complaint, it would be closed from our office and we would move on.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions for Nick or for Charlie or from the commission? No? Any comments or concerns from the gallery? No? Okay, we don't need any action, do we? No? And yeah, sounds like the matter's taken care of. All right, so that was 6C. From what my paper shows, we have item 7 left. Am I right? And then we go to 11.
Yeah, 7, 11.
Okay. Would the commission like to take a break here or take care of item 7? Okay. How about let's power through item 7 and then we'll take a break, okay? Charlie? Item 7, advanced deposit wagering.
Yes, thank you. Item 7 won't take us too long. But the reason this has come up is, we've had some questions over the last several months regarding how we have been interpreting 1125-201M. At this point today, we do not have the completion of that analysis for you. It is very close to completion, and we should have that by the next commission meeting. So really at this point, it's status quo at this point, and once we have the completed analysis for you, we will have that to you and we can go over this.
Thank you, Charlie. Anyone would like to
No
add
action.
to that?
Yeah.
Okay, well then we'll table that and move on to either lunch or I'll tell you the vice president report will be short. All right.
You want to
Lunch?
break for 15 minutes or what do you want to do?
Okay. You guys okay on Zoom to come back I have, my watch is fast, but I have 11:59. I'm gonna guess it's actually 11:55 or something. Okay, so we'll come back in 20 minutes at 12:15.
Can I get you anything to eat, Annie? I have a couple of quesadillas here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna bring the meeting back into order. Okay, we're rolling. Thank you. Okay. Charlie, no one wanted to stay for the financial report. It's kind of. Okay, so we'll bring the meeting back into order, and we will start off where we left off, and that is item 11 Alpha, Vice President Report, which will be postponed till, we can do that at Home Depot if anybody wants to go. So we're moving to item 11 Bravo, Financial Report from Charlie. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you. Just an FYI for everybody that's joining us here in the meeting and also online. We're running into some issues here in Casper with transportation and weather. So Commissioner Wildcat did have to leave the meeting to try to get back to Riverton. And so we're going to make this brief. Financial reports, commissioners, have you had an opportunity to review it? And if so, we would need a motion, if you so desire, to approve it as submitted.
Vice President Broussard, I would move to approve the financial report as submitted.
Thank you, Cactus. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got 2 seconds. We have 5 commissioners. Is that correct right now? Okay. Oh. Who's not on the Zoom?
Who's the?
Oh, okay, all right, great. Okay, so all in favor of approving the financial report, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. So Charlie, did you want to hit some highlights or?
Yes, thank you. 11C is the conflict of interest document. Commissioners, a lot of you know that we've worked through this. At the last meeting, we completed the form that we fill out, and that is out there being used at this point. This is the rules. You'll see during the last meeting, the rules in red were what was presented to you. After discussion, I made a few changes. And on, if you look at section 1F, and I apologize, I forgot to line number this document. I apologize for that. Indirect financial interest means an individual's personal, comma, and I added immediate family to that. That was from our discussion. Also, excuse me, in section 2, if you look the blue line, we added financial interest in racehorses or rodeo event stock regulated by the commission. Further down, we added engaging in any form of gambling regulated by the commission. And that was, I believe, the only change that we made.
Charlie,
Yes, sir.
if I could, section 4, under item IV, a commission member shall be, I'm assuming that means delegated the task of investigating the facts, not delayed.
Oh. We will fix that. Thank you. I think that was spell check. It couldn't have been me. So I will correct that and bring that back at the next meeting. If that's what you want me to do.
Sure. So commissioners, remind me, Nick, we lost Ginny and Tom?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if anybody has a strong opinion on anything. I don't want to move ahead if we have commissioners that have a strong opinion, but I don't, okay. So commissioners, do we want to make a motion and approve the corrections changes Charlie, is that what your wish is? Okay,
Yes.
I'm okay with it. If you guys are, we'll entertain a motion and go forward.
I move to approve as presented.
Thank you, Cactus.
Second.
Commissioner Rittenhour, thank you. Any discussion regarding this document? From the commission? No one? From the Zoom group? No? Or the room group? Anybody here want to comment on that? It's exciting. No? All right. We'll conduct a vote then. All in favor of adopting this document, just say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Okay, then we have a new document.
Moving on. Item 11D, wagering activity report. Commissioners, I'm hoping you've had an opportunity. This is an unaudited report, and we will have that completed over the next few weeks, the audit of it. I think the majority of it has been finished. We've just got a few pieces to double check. We don't need to go through it necessarily unless you'd like me to. This is the 2022 audit report.
Wow. Yeah, you had emailed this out, didn't you, Charlie?
Yes,
Yeah,
this was emailed out.
I saw this.
And I got distracted there for a moment. I received a call just then and it goes through my ears. From Representative Davis. Oop, he keeps hanging up on me.
The toothpick is hanging up. Okay, so do we have any questions for Charlie regarding the Wyoming Gaming Commission activity report for 2022? Any questions from commission? Any comments from staff? Any comments or questions from the gallery? You're watching Zoom? No hands up? Okay.
Moving on.
Yep. Thank you,
Moving
Charlie.
on to 11E, skill-based amusement game licensing. In your packet, you can see there, the staff is focused currently on reviewing, will be reviewing the applications as they come in. Is Nick, where did he go? Oh, I was going to have him do this so I can take this phone call. Sorry
We can have a
about that.
5-minute recess if y'all want. You want to do that? We'll recess for 5 minutes, guys. Sorry.
Can I call you right back? Okay.
We'll have a 1-minute recess. Now we're back in order.
We're back in motion here. Sorry about that. The licensing. I just want to remind everybody and everyone watching on Zoom, we are prepared. We've been having meetings every week, preparing for the expansion of skill-based amusement games. In our packet here, you'll see we have Nick, David, Misty, and Dee's emails. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Also, back in December, we sent out and again, it's in your packet, Commissioners, December 28th, we sent out a memo to all the skill-based amusement game vendors in the state. Again, reminding them of contact people, reach out to us if you have any questions, concerns, to make that process go quicker for you. And also just reminding them of the deadlines that will be coming soon as far as the governor signing the rules into place and just that whole process. Additionally, and I don't believe it's in our packet today for you, David Carpenter here in the office he put together an application checklist that just spells out a completed application shall include a Secretary of State's certificate of authority, certification letters, internal controls, reserve bond account plan, and change management plans. We do have a meeting this week with skill-based amusement game individuals, February 2nd, that we'll be going through these processes and procedures. And I appreciate the skill game vendors for putting that together and we can dial in on all the rules that will be coming. That is all I have as far as that one goes. Would you like me to continue on, or are there any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? Folks, no, any questions? Okay, we'll move on to Breeders' Award.
Item 11F is the Breeders' Award Program. We're pleased, again, in your packet, you see the distributions and the funds that we've received from 2022. In a previous, if you look back, if you don't mind, I would like to just take a couple seconds and flip back to the wagering activity report. I think we have, and again, I'm a little out of order. You have the summary form of the Breeders' Award Fund for this year. We're up over $5.1 million for the Breeders' Award Program, and that's phenomenal. We are as far as Breeders' Award programs, we are the #1 state in North America as far as incentives. And so that's a real big kudos to everybody that participates, the permittees who provide that money, the wagering activity. And again, I just can't, it's phenomenal to have a $5.1 million program. With that does come challenges, of course. Monitoring that, regulating it, overseeing that we don't have any individuals that are cheating the program, and there's a tremendous amount of money there, and it's just a pleasure to have that.
That is good.
Next.
Yes, sir. Director's update.
I'll keep mine relatively short, which is always a nice thing if you put me at the tail end. We are in the middle of the 25-26 biennium budget. We are putting together our budget again for 25-26. And that budget, we'll have that completed sometime late summer. So we're in that process. We're also, something else that I'd just like to tell you, since our legislative stabilization reserve account transfers, to date right now, since 2019, with the historic racing and the overabundance of money that the commission has in their account, we've donated $7.4 million to the LISRA account. We've also, in the last 6 months, we've made 2 transfers to the Department of Health from the sports wagering side, $600,000 we've transferred to the Department of Health, and that is to mitigate problem gambling. In the near future, I've asked the Department of Health to come to one of our meetings and just kind of update their plans on how that distribution will go. During the budget, we're in the middle of the supplemental budget right now. At this point, the legislature, JAC, had decided to deny one of our requests. It was also a request that the governor had approved. And so what we were applying for were 4 additional positions. They felt like 3 was sufficient, so they did deny one of our positions. I've heard, but I don't know for sure, there may be an amendment presented to maybe try to put that back into the conversation. I think, oh yes, legislation. There's a lot of legislation that's out there currently. And I'm trying to get to my page that listed it all out. Again, the supplemental budget, which is House Bill 1. House Bill 52 is the revisor bill. And in the revisor bill, they have just a brief correction in our statutes. Then we have 181, which is the online sports wagering amendments. It's passed 3rd reading in the House, so now it is moving over to the Senate. We have House Bill 182, and the sports wagering bill was expanding some of our licensing authority, and also additionally clarification for the negative, or the reserve, the negative carryover. House Bill 182 is a skill-based amusement game amendments. It's placed on general file currently, and it hasn't moved for a few days. House Bill 183 is the parimutuel bill and gaming activities amendment, which is the one that would hopefully get moved. It's on general file. It's important to us because that's the one that corrects the FBI and some of their concerns that they had with us doing background checks. And it's very important to the office and to the agency and the state of Wyoming that we get that corrected. We also have Senate File 41, skill-based amusement game. They're calling this the sideboard bill. It did pass the Senate and has been received in the House right now for introduction. As of this morning, I didn't see if it was on, I don't think it's on general file at this point. And then House Bill 287, which I participated this morning in Revenue Committee, and that is proposing gaming districts and Class 3 gaming in the state of Wyoming. That is all I have in this section, Commissioners.
Thank you, Charlie. The only thing we missed that I can see was the public comment. So half the public's gone, but we can carve out a little time if anybody wants to come and comment on something that we didn't discuss or would like to make known to the commission. Anyone?
Anyone online there?
Dwindled. Okay. All right, we should do dancing or something at this point to keep the interest. David, you got to dance? All right. Okay, everybody. The next thing is to pick a date or at least start that process.
Yeah, well,
for the next meeting.
Item
Cool.
12 was executive session. We didn't need to utilize that, so there's no executive session. And then, as you said, next meeting date. My suggestion is to have the next meeting date be at the end of the session, which would be towards the end of March and after the session completes.
So would the early part of February, the early part of April, maybe the
Either the early part
first
of April or the
couple days
end
of April?
And what I can do to save us time here today, I can reach out to you with some proposals.
Well, the last day of the session is when, Charlie, do you know that?
The last day of the session, I believe, is the 3rd, but they can go a little further.
Oh, March, so
What, to the 10th? Isn't that?
we want to give you enough time between the end of the session and the meeting to organize your stuff, but I'm available up until March 17th. I'm gonna be out. So the 16th is, I'm available all of March to the 16th.
And then you're out to the
I'm
end
out
of March?
until basically I could be back available around the 28th. So I could be that last week in March.
So we could do last week.
Sure. Anyone else have some conflicts? March is a long way away, it feels like. Okay.
And one thing to bear in mind too, depending on when the rules are completed in the governor's office for skill-based amusement games, we then start into this situation where we have 60 days to approve. So, what we decide today may have some changes because of that 60-day requirement. So we'll just play it by ear.
You're sure what's going to come out of the legislature either, so, all right. So, unless you have anything else, Charlie, we'll call the meeting to a close. Anybody? All right, thank you guys for showing up. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
See you next time.
Been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Call the meeting to a close.
Thank you.